Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and it's time for part 2 of the 2021 release roundup. If you haven't seen part 1, you can find it here, but it's not necessary for viewing. However, I would recommend checking out these videos of mine, as today's video is all about covering support that came out for these archetypes after I released my explained video covering them. I'll be talking about these new cards like you're very familiar with the theme, so if you need a refresher or you want to help increase my watch time to sate the YouTube algorithm gods, make sure to give them a watch. The first theme up to bat is Kuriboh, and the first card we'll be talking about is Magic Kuriboh, a level 1 Dark Fiend monster with 300 attack and 200 defense. During any main or battle phase, if you took damage by battle or an opponent's card effect this turn, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the grave to special summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your deck or grave. And if any number of face-up spellcasters you control are destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can add this card from your grave to your hand. Hey, yet another way to get Dark Magician onto the field. Normally I'd be a little skeptical since you have to take damage to get this effect to work, but A, you can always run into a bigger monster to make this work, or B, just duel against Sword Soul. Long Yuan will gladly make this effect live for you. Which makes this, by my count, the first Kuriboh that encourages you to take damage for its effect, or at the very least just benefits from it. That's a little concerning. Did Kuriboh finally snap after all these years of intercepting lethal damage? Skilled Chestnut Magician is a level 4 Dark Spellcaster monster with 300 attack and 200 defense, and is the next in the long line of Skilled Magician monsters, and much like them, they gain a spell counter each time a spell resolves after a spell card has been activated, holding a maximum of 3. But unlike the rest, where you have to tribute them after obtaining 3 counters to summon a monster, Chestnut can remove 1 counter for one of 2 effects. Increase this card's level by 1 and attack by 1500, making it a level 5 monster for 5-star Twilight, or adding a Kuriboh monster or multiply from your deck or grave to your hand. This card is hard to judge. Because it's not a Kuriboh monster specifically, it doesn't benefit from any of the on-theme cards that don't check for that iconic 300-200 stat line, but it can fill the role of Searcher and or 5-star Twilight target, even though you'll also need to have played another spell to make that happen. Being able to grab the cards from the grave as well is nifty, but I wouldn't call it chess-nutty. Next, we have an interesting pair of Kuribohs. They aren't the first Performapal ones, but they are the first Pendulum ones. Performapal Classic Kuriboh is a level 1 Dark Fiend Pendulum monster with 300 attack and 200 defense with a scale of 8. And as a Pendulum scale, when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, destroy this card. It doesn't have a follow-up here, but in its monster effect, it states that if destroyed by its own Pendulum effect, you end the battle phase, which is some pretty neat battle insurance. Continuing with the monster effects, Classic Kuriboh can have you discard a card to target one of your cards in your Pendulum zones, and its scale becomes 1 until the end of the turn. And when you take battle damage while Classic Kuriboh is in the grave, you can place it in your Pendulum zone. How do you get it in the grave? Well, same as most Pendulum monsters, any manner of discarding and Foolish Burialing can do the trick. But because it has to be in the grave to make this work, it does not provide a potential loop of battle phase dampening, which really is just classic Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other end of the scale, Performapal Baroque Kuriboh is a level 8 Dark Fiend Pendulum monster with 300 attack and 3000 defense with a scale of 1. As a Pendulum scale, once per turn at the start of any battle phase, you can add a 300 attack and 200 defense monster from your deck to your hand, then destroy Baroque Kuriboh. As a monster, when any of your monsters are destroyed by battle, you can special summon Baroque Kuriboh from your hand, which provides a great 3000 defense wall. For a bit. Your opponent can't target other monsters for attacks while Baroque Kuriboh is on the field, but when attacked, they're changed to attack position at the end of the damage step, so, this will make a great low scale, but honestly, it's not very true to its name. The Kuriboh formula was pretty good as is, and then this card comes along and tries to shake things up. But if it's not Baroque Kuriboh, don't fix it. Next, we have a pair of archetypes that were presumed related that now have direct confirmation. First, we'll talk about Drytron, then Ursarctic Drytron. Gosh, this game is weird. Drytron Mew Beta Fafnir is a rank 1 Light Machine Xyz monster with 2000 attack and 0 defense, requiring 2 or more level 1 monsters as material. When you ritual summon, you can detach any number of materials from this card required for that ritual summon. If Xyz summoned, you can send a Drytron card from your deck to the grave, which, considering how they work, is about as good as searching it. And when your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control a machine ritual monster, you can detach a material from this card to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So you effectively can turn your level 1 modules, which are usually summoned in defense position, into an attack position monster to help push for game, sets up another Drytron, and can negate spells and traps that might get in your way once you set up your boss monster. This card took Drytron from really good to unfathomably good, and I cannot imagine what R&D is gonna do for the eventual release of Drytron Mew Scrimblow Fafnir. Ursarctic Radiation is a continuous spell that, when activated, places 7 counters on itself, and each time any number of Ursarctic monsters are special summoned from the hand or extra deck, except during the damage step, you can remove a counter from Radiation to draw a card. Note that it doesn't specify who has to summon them, so keep that in mind for the mirror match, which I'm sure you'll have plenty of. And once per turn during the end phase, you can target an Ursarctic card in your grave and shuffle it into your deck. Now, the biggest issue with Ursarctic is that you'll spend your entire hand to summon one synchro monster, whose effect only works on Xyz and Link monsters, because the combo line is fraught with -1s. Radiation effectively balances those out, helping you run through your deck for more appropriate tribute fodder and extenders. You just have to make sure you actually open with this card, because drawing it down the line when you can't effectively summon spam is gonna make this another brick. Though it is nice that it can recycle one of your cards during both players' end phases, so you can play a lower amount of certain cards to make room for more impactful ones. This card just radiates value. Okay, here come the wacky stacks. I might have the power to foresee legacy support before it happens, but the Lime-Time duelist himself called forth such an unholy union that only space can hold it. Ursarctic Drytron is a normal spell that special summons one ultimate flagship Ursatron from your extra deck by banishing one Ursarctic Big Dipper and one Drytron Fafnir, the field spells of each archetype, from your hand and or field, although you can banish one of them from your deck instead if you control Ursarctic Polari or Drytron Alpha Thubin. And if you attribute any number of monsters to activate an Ursarctic or Drytron monster's effect, you can banish this card from your grave instead. And what do you get for achieving this? Well, it's ultimate flagship Ursatron, a level 7 water machine fusion monster with 2000 attack and 700 defense with no fusion requirements, but counts as both an Ursarctic and Drytron card and must be special summoned by Ursarctic Drytron. Once per turn, if another effect monster is special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, you can add an Ursarctic or Drytron monster from your deck to your hand, and once per turn, you can target one of your banished Ursarctic or Drytron monsters and add it to your hand. So it's not that bad. I would imagine it would see play in both decks if it was easier to summon. The issue is that it's trying to trick you into thinking these themes have synergy. One deck values low-level monsters, one values high-level monsters. One focuses on synchros, the other rituals. When you use Drytron's effect to summon themselves, you preclude the summoning of any main deck Ursarctic because despite how hard it would be to normal summon them, they very much can be, while their flagship monster, Septentrion, would negate Mew Beta Fafnir. Now, you could just run one theme and tech in a copy of the opposite field spell. After all, you can use the one material out of your deck with the appropriate monster on board. But that's another brick you have to contend with to play one of the silliest cards ever printed. And I need to know which intern they have hooked up to the Hellraiser cube in the basement, because this level of depravity cannot be sustained by will alone, and must be fed the fear and terror of card design that could not be. Ursatron is a veritable Klein bottle in terms of structure, and I will not rest until the topologic shackles that bind this card to the mortal plane are shattered. Next, we have another archetype from Battle of Chaos that took advantage of the spooky season to release new support, Ghostricks. First off is a new monster, Ghostrick Siren, a level 4 Dark Fairy monster with 800 attack and 1500 defense. They can't be normal summoned unless you control a Ghostrick monster, but they can be normal set, and once per turn you can change them to face down defense position. If Siren is normal summoned or flipped face up, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave. Then if any Ghostrick cards were among them, you can apply one of 2 effects. Either you add a Ghostrick spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or change an effect monster your opponent controls to face down defense position. The fact that you can do this on normal summon is kinda bonkers, but it sucks it might not work off a bad mill. But the ability to be either a Stratos for your support cards or Tsukuyomi is fantastic, and since it's not once per turn, multiple copies could get out of hand very quickly. I know it's a bit risky, but what can I say? It's hard to resist the call. But what would Legacy support be without an opportunity to break the rules of the game? Ghostrick Festival, despite looking like one of the deck's field spells, is a Link 1 Dark Spellcaster Link monster with 0 attack, requiring a non-Link Ghostrick monster as material. However, you can also use a face-down Ghostrick monster you control as Link material for its summon, which you normally can't do. Festival allows your Ghostrick monsters to attack directly while a Ghostrick card is in a field zone, and when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can tribute Festival to special summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck in face-down defense position, setting up any of your flipped up effects while cutting off the opportunity for your opponent to essentially attack directly. In fact, that could be a reference in and of itself, since the field spells do allow for direct attacks, so long as the attacked player only has face-down defense position monsters. But with Festival, all your Ghostricks will have a wonderful romp with your opponent's life points, so long as you don't play the field spell Ghostrick Festivus. No one's really happy after the airing of grievances. Ghostrick Shot is a normal spell that special summons a Ghostrick monster from your hand or grave, then allows you to change a face-down Ghostrick monster you control to face-up attack position, essentially letting you set up a Ghostrick, summon a new one from your deck, then triggering the set Ghostrick's effect. You can also banish Shot from your grave, then target a Ghostrick Xyz monster you control, and on resolution, you attach a Ghostrick card from your grave to that monster as material. This makes for a splendid way to get more one-sided battles off of Doulahan, more removal with Alucard, and more zone blocking with SoQ Boss. And of course, it puts you one step closer to victory with Angel of Mischief. There's a lot of fun stuff you can pull off with this card, opening the deck up to all kinds of trick shots. Their last card is Ghost Trick or Treat, a normal trap that you can activate if you control a Ghostrick Link monster or field spell. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and that monster can't attack, its effects are negated, and it's also changed to face-down defense position during the end phase. However, on resolution, your opponent can choose to pay 2,000 life points to make this effect set this card face down instead of sending it to the grave. So it's a way to freeze a monster so it doesn't cause any trouble, while also making it easier to deal with when your turn rolls around, but your opponent can pay at least a quarter of their life points to delay that by a turn. Now, I'm generally not a fan of giving your opponent options, but 2,000 life points is a pretty big cost to keep a monster available, so whatever it is you hit, it had better be good. And if played well, this deck's stall tactics can help with ensuring you get that extra turn to use that card again. It'll take a bit to learn how your opponent will respond to the choice given, but you'll need to develop that skill, because learning that is kind of the trick to the card. The next archetype we need to catch up on is the Live Evil Twins, and they've done a much worse job of handling the trick-or-treat jokes than our last archetype. First is Live Twin Kiss-a-Kill Frost, a level 2 light aqua monster with 500 attack and 0 defense. If you control a Lila monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if any number of cards are added from the main deck to your opponent's hand while you control an Evil Twin monster, you can banish this card from your grave to draw a card. So Frost is meant to be used as link material, then they can match your opponent's card advantage by giving you a draw when they search. Overall, this is a very well designed card, but I will never forgive them for not printing them as Kiss-a-Kill Trick to match Lila Treat, and there better be in the works, as well as a Lila Jack to complete the Jack Frost phrase. I'm not messing around here. When it comes to cards that are so obviously supposed to pair not getting closure, I become a dangerous person. I can snap at any moment. I can start making videos reviewing furniture upholstery. Get on this, Konami! In the meantime, we've got a new Link boss monster, Evil Twin Trouble Sunny, a level 4 Light Fiend Link monster with 3,300 attack, requiring 2 or more monsters as material, including an Evil Twin monster. As a quick effect, you can tribute Trouble Sunny to special summon up to 1 Kiss-a-Kill and 1 Lilla monster from your grave, and you can banish this card from your grave and send an Evil Twin monster from your hand, deck, or face-up field to the grave to send a card on field to the grave. Now, the most obvious monster to send would be the only main deck Evil Twin monster, Kiss-a-Kill and Lilla, since Trouble Sunny can summon the 2 links needed for their summon. But sending an on-field Evil Twin isn't a bad idea either. Smart opponents will abstain from destroying either Evil Twin, Kiss-a-Kill, or Lilla, so as not to give them the opportunity to revive them for their effects. But Trouble Sunny can force the issue while also being more removal. So I'm not sure what this rivalry is about. They seem like they would work great together. Their last new card is Live Twin Sunny Snitch, a continuous spell that, when activated, adds a live twin monster from your deck to your hand, helping boost the deck's consistency immeasurably. And when you control an Evil Twin monster, each time your opponent normal or special summons any number of monsters, you gain 200 life points, and if you do, inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent, which means you now have a persistent effect that mimics the base Live Twins without needing to keep them on field, instead replacing that requirement with the much more sustainable Evil Twins. Honestly, Sunny Snitch would have been great as long as it searched a Live Twin, but the life point drain effect on summon really pushes this card over the top. What's galling is that the classic channel all about M-Warrior content, Magnets, Muscles, and Meals, the premier educational channel for those looking to be the best Carbonala warrior they can be, is only at number 3! This algorithm is busted. And Boo Boo Game doesn't count. Solfachord's had an interesting debut performance, and now it's time for the encore with Grand Solfachord Musicea, a Link 2 Light Fairy Link monster with 1900 attack, requiring 2 Pendulum monsters as material. During your main phase, you can add a Pendulum monster from your hand to your face-up extra deck, and a face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, provided one of those pendulums has an even scale and one has an odd scale. There's a lot of words to chew through here, but it effectively lets you swap a pendulum in your hand with a face-up one from your extra deck. But they need to meet that scale requirement, which is very much on brand for Solfachords. And when you Pendulum summon any number of Solfachord monsters, you can target one of them and add a Solfachord Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, whose level equals the Pendulum scale of that monster. So the scale 5 Fancia can search the level 5 Gracia, for example. If the theme needed something, it was definitely a Link monster, and having one that can help smooth out your scales while providing more searching is incredible. And while we have a good amount of effects that put Solfachords into your hand from your face-up extra deck to mitigate the limitations of Master Rule 5, it's good to have that alongside actual Link arrows for direct summoning, meaning this grand piano is the ivory key to unlocking the deck's full potential. And of course, we can't have a video about archetype updates without talking about the best deck ever, Appliancers, which is now even better. I'm not sure how you improve on perfection, but it's been done. Appliancer Propel Ion is a Link 1 Wind Machine Link monster with 1200 attack, requiring an Appliancer monster as material. It can't be used as Link material the turn it's Link summoned, and can attack directly. And like most of the Appliancer links, it has an effect when it's co-linked or plugged in, and when it's not co-linked. While co-linked, once per turn during damage calculation, if your monster battles an opponent's monster as a quick effect, you can make that opponent's monster's attack 0 during that damage calculation only. And while not co-linked, it has largely the same effect, though it only works when Propel Lion battles not any monster you control. So yeah, this card is fantastic. While we have removal options in cards like Laundry Dragon and Vacuelephant, Propel Ion uniquely has the power to run over those monsters in battle, which is a great way to get around targeting and effect destruction protections. To say nothing of the fact that it can let any of your monsters do the same, since its co-linked effect can essentially confer that bonus to any of your monsters. It also works as an attack deterrent, as it triggers on battle, not on attack. So if your opponent wants to swing into your field, they're gonna want to find a way around the Propel Ion first. And that's on top of the extreme attack boost you can get when linked with Celtipus. When it comes to cutting a duel short, Propel Ion is well equipped with all its fan blades. Appliancer Conversion is a quick play spell that banishes as many Appliancer Link monsters from your main monster zones as possible, then you can special summon banished Appliancer Link monsters up to the number banished by this effect. And during your main phase, if this card is in your grave, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish one other Appliancer spell or trap from your grave to add this card to your hand. So what's the point of this card? Appliancer links don't really banish themselves to do anything. Are we really going to play this to hedge our bets against Dark Core? No, the real usage for this is to rearrange our monster lineup so you can choose which Appliancers are co-linked and which aren't. Previously, we only really had two effects that could handle this, Electrolyrical World and Dryer Drake, but both are pretty clunky. Conversion, on the other hand, just takes all of them off the field at once and returning them in whichever zones you feel is best. And because it's a quick play spell, you can activate it mid-battle phase to get different effects. The previously mentioned Propel Ion, for instance, can access both its effects in one turn in case it's in danger of getting attacked multiple times, and Laundry Dragon can activate both of its battle effects as well. I'm telling you, if this card doesn't convert people into being Appliancer stands, I don't know what will. Next, we got a couple of themes that got support in the secret shiny box. While we haven't yet covered Witchcrafters, we do need to catch up with our high-flying fighters, the Sky Strikers. First is Strategic Striker Hamp, a level 8 Dark Machine monster with 2500 attack and defense that's always treated as a Sky Striker card. If you control a Sky Striker Ace monster, you can special summon Hamp from your hand to either side of the field by tributing a monster from that side of the field. And when this card is destroyed by a battle, you can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. Boy, this card is ridiculous. As long as you have an ace, which last I checked is every other member of the archetype, you can just kaiju your opponent. And it's searchable. And if you run over it with something like Kagari or Shizuku, then you can pop another card they control. Or if you just need the extra damage, you can essentially swap out any monster you have for this big body. It's another great tool in the Striker's already impressive arsenal, and I can't wait to show my opponent the meaning of Hamp. Having a monstrous play. They also got our new spell, Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage, a quick play spell that you can only activate if you have no monsters in your main monster zone. You send one other card you control to the grave, and if you do, special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And if you have at least one light and one dark Sky Striker Ace monster on the field and or in your grave, the summoned monster gains 1000 attack, and for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Sky Striker monsters. Wow, another crazy Sky Striker spell, who would have guessed? It's kind of like having another copy of Ray, letting you send any back row to set up a Link Striker because it doesn't have to send a monster, but also enables huge pushes for game if you already have everything you need. Like all Sky Striker spells, this card has no once per turn requirement, so you can attack with a Striker in the extra monster zone, drop Linkage, summon a new Striker, attack again, and keep doing this for as long as you have linkages available. Heck, there's even a new OTK where you can normal summon Ray, swing for 15, tag into Hayate, attack for another 15, sending Rose to the grave to get that light and dark requirement, use Linkage to summon Kagari, which recycles the linkage, swing for 2500, then use the linkage again for any other Sky Striker, and that's 8000 points of damage on an open board off of 2 cards. It is kind of a Hail Mary since you aren't really setting up any other plays with this, but since you have at least 3 other cards in hand and you're playing, well, Sky Striker, I think this Arbiter of the Link Age will do just fine. Next, we have some Mayakashi cards. The first is a new Link and a new version of Yuki-Onna, the Icicle Mayakashi, a Link 3 water zombie monster with 2400 attack, requiring 2 or more zombie monsters as material. If special summoned, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effect. Also, as a quick effect, you can banish Icicle Yuki from your grave to special summon one of your zombie synchro monsters that are either in your grave or is banished. So it's kind of like having the Mayakashi Synchro Revival effect, except you get to choose when you use it without having to be at the behest of your opponent's monster destroying habits. And since it works on zombie synchros in general, it can also help your Shiranuis and Zombie World synchros. And even if that's not something you'll be using it for, the effect negation is still pretty handy. Since it triggers on generic special summons, summoning Icicle Yuki out of your grave with a monster like Mizuki is a great way to keep your opponent's monsters from interrupting your ice cycle. But the card on everyone's mind right now is the normal trap Ghost Meets Girl, a Mayakashi and a Shiranui's Tale. You tribute a Mayakashi or Shiranui Synchro or Link monster to make it so neither player can special summon monsters from the hand, deck, or extra deck for the rest of the turn. And see, it affects both players, so it's completely fair. Also, while in the grave, you can banish GMGA-MAST or Gimgamast to target one of your banished zombie monsters and return it to the grave, but you can only use one effect per turn and only once per turn. Zombies banish a lot of cards to activate their effects, so having a way to recycle them that's got more utility than burial from a different dimension is pretty neat. It's essentially extra copies of Mizuki, Icicle Mayakashi, Spectral Sword, Banshee, you name it. And since Squire has their signature Shiranui sword back, I feel like this drill tweet is incredibly appropriate now. Dinorphia slipped in with a few extra cards in Dimension Force. Technically that set drops in 2022, but if I cover them now, it's less work for me next year. They've got a new boss monster, Dinorphia Rexstrom, a level 8 Dark Dinosaur fusion monster with 3000 attack and 0 defense, requiring a Dinorphia fusion monster and any other Dinorphia monster as material. While on the field, monsters your opponent controls with an attack equal or higher than your life points can't activate their effects, and as a quick effect, you can pay half your life points, and until the end of the turn, the attack of all monsters your opponent controls become equal to your life points. That means, at the drop of a hat, you can set your opponent's entire monster lineup to an attack that would be in Rexstrom's effect freezing range. Note that this can increase the attack of your opponent's monsters that are lower than your life points, but with how much you're paying, that's not likely to be the case very often. Also, if destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a level 6 or lower Dinorphia monster from your grave. This is a higher level limit than our other fusion's floating effects, meaning you can summon back Kentrogena or Stealth Begia, as well as going right into your base Dinorphias if it'll help more. Either way, Rexstrom is here to bring the Dino Thunder. Dinorphia Frenzy is a new normal trap that you can activate during your opponent's main phase, letting you pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinorphia fusion monster from your extra deck, using one monster from your main deck and another from your extra deck. And like the rest of the on-theme normal traps, when your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points are 2000 or less, you can banish Frenzy from your grave to prevent effect damage dealt to you by your opponent for the rest of the turn. Now, this is very similar to Domain, which fusion summons using your hand, field, or deck, and can be activated during any main phase, but honestly, I think Frenzy is better in literally every way. Because of Rexstrom's fusion requirements, Frenzy lets you fusion summon for it, whereas Domain would require you to already have a fusion monster ready to fuse. And Frenzy can also be used to fusion summon your level 6s, so it's not like you're losing options. The big downside is that you're tearing through your extra deck a lot quicker and might leave less room for tech picks, but that's for better deck builders than me to find out if that's actually really that bad. And if you use Frenzy with Kentrogena, you actually don't have to worry about the restriction to only use it on your opponent's turn. But honestly, I think playing both is still the right choice. The more fusion effects you have in your fusion deck, the more consistently you can field your Zoids. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a reference to one of the many dinosaur-themed Sentai series, but look at this thing and tell me it's not Death Rex. Speaking of Dimension Force releases, P.U.N.K, the Sylvan Dancer, is a Link 2 Wind Plant Link monster with 1200 attack, requiring 2 plant monsters as material. If Link summoned, you can excavate up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, and you can special summon up to 2 plant monsters from those excavated cards, though they can't be used as Link material, and the rest get sent to the grave, or mulched as I affectionately call the mechanic. P.U.N.K can also target a plant monster in your grave that has a level, and the level of all face-up monsters P.U.N.K points to becomes that monster's level until the end of the turn. Yeah, this card's on some next level right here. You get to summon up to 2 plants from the top of your deck, essentially for free, or trigger their mulched effects, whichever is more useful. And it can level modulate whatever you summon, so you don't have to worry about mismatched levels. And note, while the monsters you summon can't be used as Link material, any other kind of summoning goes. So you can Xyz as normal in the Xyz deck, and then use that monster's Link material if you want to climb the ladder using it and P.U.N.K. It's a powerful extender that can make excellent use of your deck stacking effects, showing off the fruits of your labor. Ancient Warriors are also getting another chapter in their tale. Ancient Warriors Tyrannical Dong Ying is a level 6 Dark Beast Warrior monster with 2200 attack and 1800 defense, and if normal or special summoned, you can add a level 7 or higher Ancient Warriors monster, or an Ancient Warriors Continuous Spell or Trap, from your deck to your hand. And while you control a level 7 or higher Ancient Warriors monster, your opponent must pay 400 life points to activate cards or effects. Where are all these taxing effects coming from? Who joined R&D and insisted on this mechanic? I want to shake their hand. Also, if any number of monsters are sent to your opponent's grave, you can target any card in your opponent's grave, banish it, and if you do, draw a card. So it's a restricted DD Crow, but still gets the job of banishing a card out of your opponent's grave done, and nabs you a draw for your troubles. The number of monsters you can search with Dong Ying is pretty limited, but does mean you can access Cao Do when needed, so you can run fewer copies, if at all. And while it doesn't synergize too well with Guanyun, since you have to have no monsters to special summon them, Zhangde needs you to control 2 or more ancient warriors to special summon them. But of course, the one you're supposed to search, based on, you know, the story it's based on, is Lu Feng, since you only need 1 ancient warrior on field for their special summon. And hey, I'm not complaining. Lu Feng is an outstanding card for the theme, and being able to search it is more than welcome. Not to mention that if you don't need to search a monster, you can always grab cards like 3 Visits for future searches, or East by South Winds to insulate your plays, and give you some added destruction to your offensive pushes. Dong Ying may be a tyrant, but at least they have an appreciation for the classics. We also got our new continuous spell, Ancient Warriors Saga, Deception, and Betrayal. During your main phase, you can activate an effect that special summons an Ancient Warriors monster from your hand, and if you do, you take damage equal to its level times 100. And since the high end of this is 800, that's more than a fair price to pay. You can also send this face-up card from your spell and trap zone to the grave, then target an Ancient Warriors monster on the field. You change its attribute, then if you activated this effect by targeting a monster your opponent controls, you can take control of it, which is going to make the mirror matches all kinds of fun. But even if you aren't running into what I'm confident saying will be the most represented matchup in future tournaments, it still has an important application. If for some reason your opponent is able to play things out in a way that triggers Lu Feng's possession changing effect, Deception and Betrayal is a way to get it right back, so your opponent can't use that rebellious warrior against you. And that's not even getting into the shenanigans you can pull off with the attribute changing effect. If you saw the original video, you'll know I did an interview with Ancient Warrior expert Artist with a Fro, and he's already got a video talking about what you can pull off using Deception and Betrayal's attribute changing effect, and I highly recommend giving it a watch. Spoilers, totally awesome is involved, and any card that can pull that off is, well, totally awesome. Nephthys got a new card, Chaos Nephthys, a level 8 Dark Winged Beast monster with 2400 attack and 1600 defense that can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned by its own effect. If any number of cards on the field are destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can banish a light and a dark monster from your grave, except Chaos Nephthys, to special summon this card from the grave if it was there when those cards were destroyed, or hand if not. And if special summoned, you can target a card your opponent controls and 2 cards in their grave, and banish them. That's actually pretty cool, especially if you're able to combine this with something like Dark Armed Dragon to initiate the destruction. But it has no bearing on Nephthys proper, because the 2 attributes of that archetype are Wind and Fire. So unless you're also bringing Earth to the table, you'll have to catch me next September to follow up. If I remember, that is. Flowandereeze got themselves another spell, Flowandereeze and the Journey Preparations, a quick play spell that banishes a winged beast monster from your hand or face-up field to add a Flowandereeze monster or field spell from your deck to your hand, then you gain 500 life points. It's a very simple card, but considering how much the deck bricks, the ability to not only fix your hand up and set up your chain blocking effects is outstanding. Another thing that's outstanding is, once again, how adorable the art is. Look at the little fish they're packing. I can't stand it. Lastly, we have a trio of cards that update the themes found in the Grand Creators deck build pack. So let's start with No Punk Dianote, a level 5 Earth Warrior monster with 2100 attack and 1800 defense. You can reveal another Punk monster from your hand to special summon Note or the revealed monster, and if you do, send the other monster to the grave. And if Note is sent from the field to the grave, you can target a Punk monster in your grave except a level 5 and special summon it, but you can't special summon any copies of Note for the rest of the turn. This is, and I cannot stress this enough, outstanding. Up until now, the only non-tuners the deck had access to on theme was level 8s, making your synchro plays very restrictive without outside help. But now you have access to a bevy of generic level 8 options. It even makes Shirakasai a 2-card Amazing Dragon, if you'd believe it. Simply use its effect, using it and any other Punk to make Rising Carp. Then tribute the Carp to summon Note and... well, anything really, though the level 3 tuners that search you a card are probably the best. Then link those 2 into Cross Sheep. Because Note was sent to the grave, you can bring back a non-level 5 Punk, which means you can summon back Carp. And if you do so at a point Cross Sheep points to, you can trigger its effect to get you back Shirakasai. Now you've set up a quick synchro of Amazing Dragon on your opponent's turn, and if you do that to a point Cross Sheep points to, they'll both get a 700 attack boost. And as long as Cross Sheep stays on the field, you can loop this again on your next turn by using Amazing Dragon to revive Carp. After that, there's no way your opponent's winning. Brave Tokens got Illegal Knight, a level 7 Dark Fiend monster with 2000 attack and defense. During the main phase, if you control no monsters, or you control Brave Token as a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you control Brave Token as a quick effect, you can target up to 2 cards your opponent controls, give control of Illegal Knight to your opponent, and if you do, return the targeted cards to the hand. This card effectively heightens the power of Dracoback. That just bounces 1 card, but if you use Illegal Knight, you can bounce 2 cards, then use Dracoback to put it right back in your hand. And Illegal Knight activates as a quick effect, so you can get up to all kinds of shenanigans. But I'm sorry, the name gets me. It's probably going to be different when the TCG localization hits, but it's not Evil Knight, it's not Edgy Knight, it's not even Anti-Hero Knight. They're illegal. Playing this card is a criminal offense. I love it so much. And finally, we have a new, definitive boss for Exorsister's Magnifica, a rank 8 Light Warrior Xyz monster with 2800 attack and defense, requiring 2 rank 4 Exorsister Xyz monsters as material, and must be Xyz summoned from the above Xyz material, so you can't cheat it out with a Memento or the base Exorsister's effects. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase, and once per turn as a quick effect, you can detach a material to banish a card your opponent controls, which thankfully can be used on any turn, not just the one it was summoned on. And when your opponent activates a card or effect as a quick effect, you can return an Xyz monster attached to this card to the extra deck, then you can Xyz summon that monster from your extra deck using Magnifica as material. So this new card doesn't help enable our game plan, but it does give us a stronger payoff. One way or another, preferably with Vadis, we'll want to get 2 of our Exorcisters onto the board and benefit from their quick effects to stymie our opponent's game plan. Then, when it rolls back around to our turn, we use their effects as best we can before overlaying them into Magnifica. Since none of their material will transfer over, we might as well make the best of it. Then, we use our humongous double attack, which isn't restricted to monster attacks by the by, banishing a card your opponent controls as needed. Then, whenever your opponent activates an effect, you can tag Magnifica into one of its materials to get their effect, providing a much longer chain of effects that you can use to keep your opponent on the back foot. It's more than good, it's magnificent! Alright, by my count, that's every card released from archetypes I've covered so far that got released after their initial video. We had a lot to talk about, and I'm looking forward to having even more to talk about by the end of 2022. What legacy support was your favorite? And do you have any that you'd like to see released this year? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like the video to show others how much you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss more archetype analysis, and share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Nebula Navigators, Adam Zajadel, Benjamin Meisner, Eric, Gloomba331, Howling Zangetsu, John Manji, Panther J, Shooting Star 3300, Sun Sorrow and the Wizard Moose, and Cosmic Crusaders, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Colin Todd, RGS, and the Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. And if you'd like to be a part of the credits as well as help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you haven't seen part 1 of this year's roundup, you can check it out right here to see what other archetypes got new cards in 2021. And if you want to see 2 Yu-Gi-Tubers going at it, check out Noah Jenk and I's latest series, Progression Polls, where your voice shapes the format. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.